Welcome to the Beat Reporter's Inbox on MLB.com, presented by Edward Jones. I'm Mark Sheldon, MLB.com Reds reporter, with Madison Campos asking the questions. Madison, who's up first?
All right, first question is from Ron. What should the Reds do with Winker?
Well, Jesse Winker, who is their number 2 prospect, was just called up a couple days ago to add some offense. He was the DH in 2 of the 3 games, including today. And really, they're kind of in an odd position with him because in the corner outfield, they have Adam Duvall in left field. They have Scott Shedler in right field. Shedler has 20 home runs. Duvall's having a pretty good season after being an all-star last year. So there's really no place to go for Winker right now other than being the occasional call-up or a bench guy. So for the time being, they're going to have to make do with him as being an extra guy and being available if somebody gets hurt.
Next question is from Jonathan. Why is it that relief pitchers are limited to 1 inning per outing? I know occasionally they pitch more, but the general rule seems to be 1 inning. Wouldn't they get, in quotes, stretched out by pitching, say, 2 or more if they pitched more?
In all honesty, the Reds are actually one of those teams that have really used their bullpen differently this season. Raisel Iglesias, who's sort of the de facto closer, has got 4 saves of 2 innings, of more than 1 inning, Michael Lorenzen's had a couple of 3-inning outings and a couple of, I think, 7 2-inning outings. So they really do stretch out their guys, and long relievers like Austin Bryce or Elisa Bonilla have had to come in and pitch sometimes 4 or 5 innings. So I think Brian Price, although the bullpen's starting to show some wear and tear from being the most used bullpen in baseball, with the rotation being the least able to go the least amount of innings this year, it's starting to show their wear and tear, but the bullpen's really picked it up pretty well, and Brian Price has managed it as well as he possibly could.
Next question is from Charlie. What can the Reds expect from Homer Bailey?
Yeah, it's a big question. He's going to be starting on Saturday. It was just announced. He'll make his 2017 debut against Washington. Bailey has had 3 arm surgeries on his elbow and 8 starts since August of 2014. So this last surgery was to remove bone chips from his elbow shortly before spring training. So he is a bit of a wild card or an X factor. But what they really are wanting from him is dependability. This rotation has only averaged 4.9 innings a start for the whole season through 71 games. And Bailey is a guy that has a track record that when he is healthy, he can go deep into games, and they would love to see that, and he could really stabilize the rotation if he could just go 6 or 7 innings in a start.
This next one is from Molly. What is Zack Cozarts' prognosis on DL with right quad strain?
Zack is supposed to start baseball activities again on Friday in Washington. He seemed like it was not a major injury. He was stretching out on an infield ground ball to the shortstop, and he ran a little hard, and it strained his quad. He was been bothered by it for a few weeks, he said, but he did not think it was something that was that serious. He hopes to be back on June 27th, which would be the first day he'd be eligible to come off the disabled list.
The next one is from George. What is Bronson Arroyos' future?
He's got a great future as a traveler and as a friend of many, and of course his guitar career and his singing and his music, but I don't think he has much of a future left in Major League Baseball. He has a really bad shoulder. He says he can no longer throw. He's been trying to use cortisone to mask it. I mean, he can throw on the side, and he might be able to throw out of the bullpen. It's something he kind of left the door open to, but he says starting for him and pitching every 5 days is probably not realistic. He's got the worst ERA among all qualified starters this season, and he just wasn't getting better. His velocity's gone way down. He was able to get towards the mid-80s for a while, but now he's down in the low 80s, and some of his pitches are down in the 60s and 70s.
This next one is from Corey. What do the Reds need to do to get out of their slump?
They need to pitch better. Plain and simple, the rotation is the worst rotation in baseball. It's got a over 6 ERA, but the lineup has shown that it can hit. It's been a very strong lineup this season. They've also shown the propensity to come back when the rotation puts them in a hole. The lineup does come back, and until recently, the bullpen's actually been pretty solid. It hasn't been maybe since during this losing stretch, but overall, if the bullpen can keep the team in the game and the lineup keeps doing well, it's really incumbent on the rotation to do its part and get deeper in the game and give its own team a chance.
From Anthony, what part of Hunter Greene's game needs to improve to get him in the big leagues?
Well, he is only 17 years old, so he's not quite a finished product yet, but he can throw 102 miles an hour. I have never personally seen him pitch, so I would not be fair to me to make that opinion, but for most pitchers that age, they usually require 3 to 4 years of development through the system, and I'm sure they're going to work with him and see what he can do.
From Drew, should Scooter keep playing for Cozart?
Well, in the meantime, yes, he will. What happens is Jose Peraza, the second baseman, has shifted over to shortstop in place of Cozart, and that's given Scooter Gennett a chance to play every day at second base. They really like his bat. Of course, he had the 4-home-run game a couple weeks ago. That was a very big day. But he's also been one of those guys that when he does play, he drives in a lot of runs, and they really like having his bat in the lineup when they can get it in there. And when he's not able to play at second base, when Cozart comes back, he can play third base, he can play left field, and he can play right field.
This one is from Jonathan. What does Billy Hamilton need to do to improve his hitting?
Well, according to Hamilton, he might just need to slow it down a little bit. He says some of his better swings have come when he's just taken a nice, easy swing and not tried to do too much with the pitches that he's getting. Hamilton also needs to improve hitting from the right side. It's funny because in past years he's always been a stronger right-handed hitter, and then he was struggling on the left side, and he actually thought about giving up switch hitting the last couple of off seasons and was convinced to do it. But this year he's actually hitting better left-handed than he is right-handed, so he has to find a way to get better at right-handed and maybe take it easy and not put too much pressure on himself. He needs to get on base. Without him and without Zack Cozarts at the top of the lineup, this lineup doesn't go and they don't score runs.
This next question is from Jeff. Could you explain some of the moves the Reds have made in the past few years and how that has built up the current lineup?
Well, they had to go through what is obviously known as a rebuild. It's kind of an unpopular term for fans, but sometimes it's a necessary thing. If your team isn't able to compete, you kind of have to take the long view. And what they did, obviously, was trade all but a few of its stars, like Jay Bruce, Johnny Cueto, Brandon Phillips, Todd Frazier, Mike Leake, Aroldis Chapman, etc. But what they have done is they've brought in some nice talent. Those trades have yielded guys like Eugenio Suarez, Adam Duvall, Scott Schebler, Jose Peraza. So you're starting to see some of these guys come into their own this season, and you're starting to see the building blocks of what a team can do. Obviously, right now it's not going well, having they lost 11 of 12, but there was a spell before that they were one game under 500. So you are seeing what this team might be capable of in 2018 and beyond.
This one comes from Thomas. Should the Reds trade or sell at the deadline?
Well, if they probably will end up selling at some point. Zack Cozarts is obviously the most popular trade chip. When he's healthy, I have a feeling that he could be moved. The problem is there's not a lot of demand for shortstops. I know the Orioles just lost J.J. Hardy for a while, and maybe that could be a match. But Cozart's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. And otherwise, they could look at moving a guy like a Drew Storen, who could be a bullpen piece for somebody. I don't imagine they're going to sell off too many guys as far as like Billy Hamilton or Adam Duvall, but it's always possible. Dick Williams, the general manager, has always said he's opportunistic. If someone comes at him with a really good offer, he's going to take a look at it. It's what he did when he brought in Luis Castillo and Austin Bryce in this offseason trade that sent a very good pitcher in Drew Staley to Miami.
This one is from Mikey. When are the Reds going to bring up Nick Senzel?
Senzel's probably going to get called up or promoted from high Class A to Double A any time now. It's probably the next progression for him. But I would not imagine we'd see him maybe at the most earliest September as a call-up this year, but more likely in 2018.
From Alan, do you think Adam Duvall can top his home run total from last season?
It's certainly possible if he gets hot. He's a little bit more consistent this season than he was last year. Last year, he got off to a really hot start. He had 23 homers in the first half and then finished with 33 and 103 runs batted in. So he kind of tired out a little bit in the second half. So I think if with a little more experience and maybe with a little more protection in the lineup too, he should be able to do a little bit better possibly.
This question is from James. Who do you want to see in the AllStar game that's on the Reds?
Well, it's really up to the fans. I don't have a stake in the game, I guess, so to speak, but I think if you look at some of the guys that are deserving, you got to look at Joey Votto, who's having a resurgent year. He's been one of the better players in the second half each of the last 2 years, but this year he's putting together what looks to be a good full season. He's on pace to what he did in his MVP year 2010, so you look at Joey Votto. You got to look at Raisel Iglesias, who's having an unbelievable year as a end-of-game guy, as a closer. Zack Cozarts is certainly deserving. He's right now one of the leading vote-getters. He is the leading vote-getter among National League shortstops, and he's even though he's on the disabled list, he's having a fantastic year. So I would say those are the three guys that are deserving. When a team is not contending, it's harder to get three guys in the All-Star game, so we'll see what the Reds come up with.
This one is from Matt. Will Robert Stevenson get a chance in the rotation, or has that ship sailed?
He'll get a chance in the rotation. He still has to work on his walks. What the Reds ended up doing today is they're going to promote Luis Castillo from Double A Pensacola because he's throwing strikes, and he's been very good at that this year. Stevenson and guys like Cody Reed or Sal Romano at Triple A Louisville are starting, but they're not really getting the ball over the plate as much as the Reds would like. They're very walk prone. And Brian Price said today that for guys like Stevenson and Reed, they really want them to get comfortable repeating their deliveries, getting stronger as starters, and eventually when they show that they can dependably go deeper into games and keep their walk counts, their walks down and stay in the strike zone, they might get a chance to be called up as starters.
This one is from Joan. What can we expect from Luis Castillo, who pitches on Friday?
Based on his track record at AA, it's that he'll throw strikes. In 80 innings, he had like 13 walks compared to like 80-something strikeouts. I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers in front of me. But he's been very dependable down there. He was an exciting pitcher to see him at spring training for what little we got to see of him. He looked like he had the goods, and they're very excited about him.
All right, and this is the last question from Kim. Who is someone that has played better than expected?
Well, that's a good question. I would say Eugenio Suarez, even though he had a breakout year last year, I think he's been much better defensively. I didn't expect to see that so much. That's another good question. Let me see. Tucker Barnhart's been pretty dependable offensively. I just say those are probably the two guys I would say have been above and beyond maybe the bigger surprises this year. So that's it. So thanks for watching the Beat Reporters Inbox on MLB.com, presented by Edward Jones. Tune in again next time.